Hello, everyone. This is another session of Self-Care for Healers online masterclass series. With this session, it is my privilege to introduce Renee Masse. Renee is the creator and owner of the Valkyrie Mystic. She is a psychic medium, astrologist, Reiki master teacher, as well as a nutritionist. Her spiritual journey began at a young age, and the deep healing of her own traumas inspired her to help others. She specializes in spiritual ascension, working with the sacred feminine to heal the wounded masculine in all of us. So Renee, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
So if you could, please tell us about your story and how you overcame control issues in your life.
Control issues, interesting topic. I find that I have an extensive trauma history in my childhood, and it definitely led me to be a control freak as I got older, trying to overmanage situations, people, events, different things, because we have to stay secure. We have to protect ourselves. We want to stabilize these situations so that we're not left in a position where we're freaked out or it triggers us, and we react to those triggers. So for me personally, it's been a very, very long journey, and it's still a work in progress. I still catch myself with different things. We were even talking about it a few minutes ago, how, I have these little control issues, but I have to say that, from where I was many years ago and where I am right now is a huge 180-degree shift, because it's the core wounds that once you have an opportunity to really hone in on your own traumas, and it doesn't really matter what they were, because we don't compare traumas. If it was something that affected you so personally that it shifted your perspective, it shifted your ability to function to what you would consider to be optimal function. If you're not able to be in that space, then there is a wound that is affecting your day-to-day. And for me, it resulted in PTSD. It resulted in a panic disorder, depression, generalized anxiety. I was diagnosed with all of that around the age of 19 and 20, and it was really hard. I really struggled. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was scared. And I started my spiritual journey so young too. I was in my teenage years when I started studying chakras and Reiki and energy work and astrology. And, I was around the age of 15 when I started studying chakras and meditation and stuff like that. So I knew even from a young age that I was going to be in a very long healing journey for myself. And it probably took me an extra long time because I did so much of my own work. I feel like when we're doing our own work, we don't always have the best insight to our own stuff. And it can definitely take longer to go through some of those processes. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I'm just thinking, how could healers recognize the fact that they have control issues? How do you know? Because you're in control, because you like,
Yeah.
to steal your term, release the inner control freak, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I didn't know I had control issues for a really long time. I was actually really good at maneuvering myself. So I noticed that I didn't like to make plans, right? That I can tell you this 100%. My husband can verify this. I didn't like making plans. And it was because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel. So if my husband said to me on a Tuesday, hey, do you want to take the kids to the zoo on Saturday? I would say, I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel on Saturday. Let's just play it by ear. And my husband is like a super planner. So it would kind of rub him the wrong way, because he'd be like, Renee, like we have to nail something down, And I'm like, but why do we have to do that? Like, let's just leave it open-ended. So I gave the impression that I was very like fly by the seat of my pants. I'm very whimsical. I'm spontaneous. I'm fun like that, right? But what it really came down to was me navigating this situation so that I could exercise control over it. It was going to be on my terms. So I feel like that's something that you definitely have to recognize about yourself is, do you feel like you feel like that everything has to kind of end up on your terms. And if somebody else is making suggestions, if somebody else is trying to plan an event, travel, dinner, shopping, anything, it can be something very minuscule. It doesn't have to be a trip, to another state. It can be something really small, like, hey, do you want to take the kids to the zoo on Saturday? And just feeling like, I'm not sure. Let's not make any big plans yet. Let's see how the week goes, right? Those were ways of me exercising my control issues in my relationship. So control issues can come out very subtly. They can be very demanding. I never considered myself to be somebody like, bridezilla, where, I'm like, this is how it has to be. Don't break, what I've set up. That was never my way. But when things didn't go the way that I had anticipated, the way that I really needed them to go for my own mental health, that was when I would start to shut down. And there were many things that I missed out on. I missed out on a lot of things in my life because of that fear. Because I also developed agoraphobia. And when I was in my mid to late 20s, I had to stop working for a while because when I was out in public, when I was out in like different places, I would completely shut down and I would start having panic attacks. So, Disney was not a thing for me to do. Going to Universal Studios, things that people, especially living in Florida, because that's where I live, things that people would just find so delightful, so incredible, so much fun, to me was like medieval torture. Yeah, I hated going to Disney. I hated going to the beach. I hated doing things that put me out in the middle of people. It took me away from what I considered to be my comfort zone, my safe space. And so many people that I have worked with over the years, as an empath, as a psychic medium, you're sensitive to what other people are going through, right? You can feel their pain, you can feel their wounds. And so I tend to attract people that have very similar wounds that I've worked through because there's an understanding, there's an energetic vibrational alignment there, and so I'm able to help them work through a lot of those issues that I've had to work through because I've missed out on a lot of things in my life because of that debilitation, because of the control over these situations. It's very like destructive, and I don't think a lot of people realize that when you have unhealed traumas, when you have unhealed wounds, how destructive it can be to your life, your relationships, your ability to earn stable income, to even look forward to little things like going to the beach, going to the zoo.
Yeah. So how did you overcome those wounds?
I had a lot of really deep healing to do, and I had to learn how to surrender, which is so much easier said than done. Getting to a place of surrender means that you are completely letting go. You're detaching from the ego. And we live in a very wounded society. We live in a very wounded masculine society. And that is based on, this 5,000-year patriarchy of just unhealthy behaviors, where wounded masculine is ego driven, it's competitive, it can be abusive and destructive. Divine masculine is gentle, it's respectful, it's supportive, it's still logical and rational, but it comes across very differently. And so we've been living in this very wounded masculine society. So on top of the wounds, it was like, you have to do better, you have to work harder, you have, it's like this constant drive pushing you, but not being in the flow of the sacred feminine. Because sacred feminine is all about the rhythm and the flow, and saying that, there's a reason for the season, there's a time for retreat, there's a time for action, there's a time for rest, there's a time of contemplation and reflection. There's times for all of that, which is why I follow the moon cycle so closely. But healing the wounds, working with my chakras, I became a Reiki master teacher. I've done a lot of different things with healing modalities. But it was all working towards getting to this place of detaching from the ego, detaching from that separateness, because that's what the ego is. That's what the unbalanced masculine is. It is this separateness between all of us. So when I was in my really deep in the control issues, that's all you see is like, you see how you're kind of like your own person on your own island. You're separated from everything. And so you have this overreach where you have to control everything, because you can't leave it to chance. You can't leave it to be vulnerable and in the hands of someone else, right? You have to find a way to navigate it, to manage it in your own way. Does that make sense? Because it's a very real thing. And I think that this will probably ring very true to a lot of people. It was not easy for me to come to grips, first of all, with the fact that I had PTSD. It was not easy for me to come to grips with the fact that I was a control freak. You know, all of those moments were like these pivotal moments. They were totally aha moments. And then, you know, as soon as you recognize that, wow, okay, so this is here in my life right now, then you have an opportunity to use that challenge and shift it, transition it, transform it in some way. And I'm telling you, if you can get some of this really deep healing taken care of, and you can embrace yourself, love yourself, learn to accept who you are, and remove the separateness, live in a space of unity, living in a space of unconditional love and compassion for yourself and others, you will start to release that control and come to a place of surrender. And it's actually one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced in my life. Is it really easy to get there? No. But once you do get there, your life will never be the same.
So how would you do that? Would you say you use divine masculine healing or divine feminine healing to heal control issues? Or maybe it depends on the client.
Yeah, I would say that I definitely gravitate more towards divine feminine, because I'm very much like in the flow of things, you know. I find that most people are very hard on themselves. I've been very hard on myself, you know, but because of where I am in my journey, I can recognize those things much faster. So I am much more mindful of my behaviors. I'm much more aware of myself moment to moment versus where I was before, where it was just like, you know, all over the place. It was, you know, I'm just like spinning out of control. I feel like there's an awareness that you start to develop in yourself through meditation, through the divine feminine. Divine feminine cradles you. And most people want to be cradled, especially if you have a trauma history, especially if you have really deep core wounds that you've been carrying around for several years. Divine feminine has a way of bringing you the comfort, the acceptance, the nourishment. She's so strong and courageous, but there's something very powerful yet gentle about that energy. So I definitely gravitate towards that because I get into a very gentle rhythm and flow with my clients where it's just pure acceptance. It just needs to be whatever it is. Let it flow, let it be. And that's where a lot of that magic really happens. You know, that's when you can start seeing that surrender, like literally happening right before your eyes, because we're so tense, you know, our muscles get tense. When you start to hone in on your control issues, which is connected to anxiety, which is connected to core wounds, you know, it's a ripple effect through your whole life. When you start to really hone in on that, you see how these mental, emotional traumas affect your physical body. So one of the first things that I can tell for myself and for other people, when your control issues start to kick in, your anxiety starts to kick in, you're going to notice that there are certain muscles in your body that start tensing up because they're preparing for that fight or flight, right? And so you're going to notice that your muscles start to tense up in certain areas. Mine, shoulders and neck, 100%. I know it right off the bat. And then after that, I notice that my breathing is going to change a little bit. And I know that my heart rate's going to change a little bit. So it can be very subtle differences, but once you start recognizing where you are in each moment, checking in with yourself, you're going to have a much better handle on it instead of judging it so much and saying, I have to change this. We live in resistance the majority of the time instead of being in the flow. And once we learn how to be more in the flow and accept ourselves, accept each moment as it comes, instead of feeling the need to control it, then we can start letting go, detach from ego, and surrender to the higher divine beings that are all around us every day, here to help us fulfill our purpose.
Sounds good. Is there a particular type of trauma that would result in control issues, perhaps childhood traumas? Because you see a lot of people that deal with this issue as well. So what is there a particular profile or a particular type of trauma that seems to be very common with people that end up having control issues?
Yeah, I find it to be, there's a lot of verbal abuse, verbal and emotional abuse. I'm very transparent about my traumas because I find that, for me anyway, it feels a little selfish to conceal them, to hide them, because me speaking about my own traumas it might help somebody else who isn't realizing, what they've gone through. I remember many years ago, there was a therapist that I was working with, and we were talking about PTSD. We were talking about being a victim. And I argued with her and I said, I'm not a victim and I don't have PTSD. And she was like, Renee, let's go over a few things here, and let's look back on the things we've discussed. And I really just didn't want to identify with that. I didn't want that to be who I was, my role in life, that I was this victim. But I also find that at the moment you realize that you are a victim in some way, that you have an opportunity to take control back. We have to connect to these things sometimes to realize that we have the power to change, and everybody has the power to change 100%. And for many years, because it took me a long time to work through this stuff, I did feel like this was going to be my life. I was never going to get better. I was going to have to just accept the fact that I couldn't do certain things, that I couldn't go certain places, that certain things were very challenging for me. But I never gave up. I never quit. I just said, okay, so if this is the way my life is going to be, then I guess this is the way my life is going to be, but I'll keep working at it. I'll keep doing the work. I'll keep plugging away. I'll keep going deeper into the layers of my heart. I had a lot of problems with my solar plexus, but I find that I don't like loud noises. If I'm in my car and there's a good song that comes on, I will 100%, I will crank that tune, but I don't like it when the TV is really loud. I don't like being around a lot of loud noises. I grew up with somebody who was unmedicated bipolar and also an alcoholic and also abused drugs. And so there was a lot of erratic behavior. There was nothing that you could plan on. There was nothing that would make you, it was very challenging in our household for me to feel safe, secure, stable, protected. I did not feel protected. So with a lot, and there were other things that happened to me, there was sexual abuse, there was neglect, there was abandonment. So it just manifested. It manifested into deeply rooted fear, panic, post-traumatic stress, and eventually deep control issues, because there was nothing that was manageable in that household. It was a complete roller coaster ride. And so as I got older, I felt, it happens very subconsciously and unconsciously, but it is your psyche and your ego trying to protect yourself. That's really what's happening. So it is important to understand the biological and neurological functions that are taking place, as well as how it's manifesting in your life and affecting your relationships, your spirituality, your connections, your emotional health, how you're able to deal with stressful situations and people. So it's a very interesting process, and I describe it as walking through fire. Because fire is very purifying, right? It's very cleansing, but it hurt. It hurt like hell.
Amazing. So be mindful of what triggers you, and that's probably an issue that you need to work on. Initially there'll be resistance, and then
Yeah,
that's how you know you can overcome it, though.
there's definitely going to be resistance. I can tell you that right now. If you have a trauma history, um, and you are trying to get to a place of surrender, and you're trying to understand what your emotional triggers are, you're trying to isolate some of the things that have happened in your life. Sometimes, like for me, sometimes it's very hard to even realize that those traumas were there. I had to have somebody like point it out to me and be like, Renee, this isn't normal. Like regular people, kids don't usually grow up in this kind of an environment. And in my mind, because of the way I was raised, I thought like everybody was dealing with this stuff, you know? But then I was seeing it come out in my life in other ways that it wasn't happening with other people, and I just thought, well, everybody else has figured it out. Everybody had like received some code, so everybody received something and it helped them shift through it much, much faster. I had a very weird perception of the trauma. And it could be because I had started my spiritual journey so early that I was just very, I don't know, I was just very open with other people about things. And I just thought they had their own stuff too. It was, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe how I made that connection, but I really felt like everybody had their own stuff, everybody had their own story, but it just really wasn't, not many people were to the degree that that I was experiencing it. And I thought, well, maybe they just figured out things a lot faster, and maybe this is just part of my journey, that it's going to take me longer. But it is 100% possible for everyone to heal, to love yourself, to accept yourself, to set strong boundaries, to feel empowered and confident, and to handle stressful situations, and to live moment to moment, and to make plans and do fun things, and to have an abundantly filled life full of love and joy.
Yes. So I agree. Do you have a technique that people could use to kind of embrace this power of surrender?
Yes. So I really love working with the chakras, and particularly the soul star chakra, which is probably about 12 to 24 inches above your crown chakra, which is connected right at the top of your head. So this is a chakra that is not connected to the physical body. It's kind of out there, right? But it has this really special quality, this really special gift, where it also connects to something called the stellar gateway. And it is where this influx of divine energy has the ability to really flow through and to connect to the rest of the chakras in the body. So that particular chakra is not connected to the body, but it is kind of like the doorway into the rest of the chakras. So the way I try to imagine it is, when I work with the soul star, when I activate it, open it, all of those things, I imagine all of the energy from divine light, divine source, divine light beings connecting straight into that chakra, and then showering down on the rest of my being. And it does help. The soul star chakra is primarily about letting go. It is about the surrender. And practicing this meditation will help you little by little by little by little. You'll probably notice a shift after one meditation. But, obviously, the more that you do it, the more you are going to be in that alignment, and it will get easier and easier and easier. And you'll start to recognize different things in your life shifting. Little shifts make a big difference. Trust me. when you've been living, kind of like in this bubble, when you've been living, kind of as a recluse for a while, and you start to just see little things in your life change, and that you don't really need to have so much control over something that you did once. It's a big deal, and it feels very freeing. And that is another element of the soul star chakra. It's about setting yourself free and not allowing yourself to be so controlled by control. by your traumas and by your wounds. So it's very powerful. So I'd like to do kind of like a sample of that here today for everyone. And I do have, a soul star activation meditation that I will also offer. I'll make sure you get the link for that. And it's about a 20-minute meditation that also carries the sound frequency of the soul star chakra. And so just the combination of everything is very, very, very powerful.
Sounds great.
Okay, so are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, so first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're in a very comfortable position and that our spine is aligned. So you can be laying down, you can be sitting up. If you're laying down, don't fall asleep. And what I really love to do is focus on the heart. So we're going to be centering our energy into the heart. So I would like for you to close your eyes, and I want you to just start breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I want you to just center in your breath. Clear your mind. Allow everything to just be whisked away like thoughts on a cloud. And at this moment, I want you to bring your full attention into your heart center. This beautiful heart center. There's so many layers to the heart. They go down very deep. And yet the heart feels like the most powerful part of who you are, emanating with unconditional love, empathy, compassion, and kindness. And as we are extending that energy out from our heart center, we're also extending it inward to ourselves, creating somewhat of a beautiful orb of light, allowing this orb to grow with each breath in, feeling it spinning, glowing, growing within the center of our chest. And some of you may feel a tingling sensation. You may feel waves of warmth, buzzing, vibrating energy as your heart center is opening. And what I want to do with this beautiful orb of light spinning at the center of our chest is I want to start bringing it upward in the body. And as the orb is continuing to move up, we're allowing it to fill up our chest, allowing it to move upward into our throat chakra. And at this space, we have the opportunity for truth. We have the opportunity for divine expression, creativity. Feeling that chakra also open, activate, and continuing to let this beautiful orb of light move upward into our third eye, our spiritual antenna, our intuition, our ability to see what our physical eyes do not allow us to see. Allowing the chakra to open and activate. The orb continuing to spin, continuing to grow, encompassing more and more space within us and around us, and continuing to climb up higher into our crown. Divine wisdom pouring through us, feeling the true connection to God's source, divine light. All of the wisdom and the spiritual power that you possess as a divine light being activated here. And then moving up even higher to a space outside of the body, into the soul star. And at this place, You surrender. You completely let go and detach from the physical reality that you have been living within. This is where your angels, your spirit guides, your galactic family, this is where they connect to you and through you. And at this place of surrender, as this chakra is opening, being cleansed, cleared, and activated, you give yourself over to your divine light beings, trusting them, knowing that their love is unconditional and pure and true. That there is nothing in this world that you could have ever done or will ever do that will change their love for you. It is the purest source of light, of joy, and of peace. And at this point, you may feel a light being ignited above your head. To me, it feels like a warm glow. It just feels very comforting, peaceful, allows yourself to be free. Continuing to breathe deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. This is your divine center. This is where the ego cannot possibly exist and control ceases. Take a moment to feel that, to enjoy it, to let it shower you with sparks of divine light. And for this is the space that you are one with Source. And anytime you need to surrender, this is where you can go. And we're going to shut this down just a little bit because we don't want to keep it so openly activated. We're going to just shut it down a little bit, and we're going to thank our angels. We're going to thank our guides. We're going to thank Divine Source for allowing this activation to take place. Sending from our heart center love, unconditional, kindness, empathy, and joy. And just being in that space, we can feel how there is no stress here. There are no expectations. We don't have to manage anything. We can just simply be. And with gratitude, I want you to allow that orb to come back down slowly through the crown, the third eye, downward through the throat, the chest, into the heart once more. And we're just going to close it down just a little bit. And you can open it anytime you'd like. Feeling yourself more in your physical body. Taking a couple of deep cleansing breaths. Wiggle your fingers and your toes if you must. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How did that feel?
Fuzzy. I have the hairs on my arms standing up. It was
I'm going to take that as a good sign, Peter.
very, very powerful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But I will tell you right now that I'm definitely feeling very buzzy and out of my body right now. But I will tell you that meditation, that ability to move yourself out of your body a little bit and upward to connect from your heart and then up into that divine source of light, of love, is probably one of the most powerful things that I've experienced in that transformation of releasing control, of knowing that I was safe. Everything's going to be okay, you know? It just puts you in alignment with the present moment, and nothing else matters but the present moment.
That's true. And while I was there, I just wanted to stay there, you know.
Kind of hard to come back. And so just imagine, you know, that kind of a meditation with the soul star frequency in the background. You know, you just kind of taken out of your body, which when you have like really deep control issues, and when you have trauma history, it can be very hard to let that go, even though you don't want to be in your body anymore, you know, because you know that being in your body, there's tension and there's stress, and there's your mind and your thoughts, and all of these lower vibration feelings that you're experiencing. But you will start to feel more comfortable being in your body, practicing this, because it is very comforting and healing to be taken out of your body, to let some of that healing take place, and then to go back to it.
Because once you're removed from it, you can turn around, look at it, and realize, whoa, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing, and it's helped me, and it's helped many of my clients. I have 2 courses, and in the first course that I teach, my 12-week course, we do extensive work with the soul star chakra, because we do a lot of inner child work and shadow work in that course as well. So it has to be cleared, open, activated, in order to access some of those higher potentials that we're trying to reach. It's very hard to heal when you're stuck in ego. It's just not going to work out the same way.
True. So if the audience really enjoyed this meditation, I'm sure they did, how could they reach you if they had questions or if they wanted more information?
I definitely recommend that anybody who has questions or wants to learn more, that they email me, which is thevalkyriemystic@gmail.com. And I usually respond pretty quickly, definitely within 24 hours. And because my website is still under construction, putting a website together is no fun. I don't know if you understand that. I think you do, though.
I do. Mine was a bear.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. So I'm still under construction in my website. So definitely email me, and I'm also on Facebook as well, if anybody would like to reach me there.
Very good. So Renee, thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom and guiding us on that amazing meditation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was a very amazing thing for you to be doing. This is such a healing opportunity for so many people. You know, the consciousness of the planet is shifting, and we are definitely recognizing the fact that the wounded masculine energy we've been living in for so many years is outdated, and it doesn't work anymore. So we're going to shift back to that beautiful divine masculine and sacred feminine, and this is definitely going to help people be on that path and feel confident about it. So you're doing incredible work. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I do encourage the audience to reach out if they have any questions. Reach out to any of our speakers, most especially if you feel that the soul star activation resonates with you. Please check out Renee's amazing meditation. And if you have any questions, she's available. And that's really powerful. And I'm so grateful that you would be willing to extend your time and energy like that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I'd also like to thank our audience for being part of this journey as well. And until next time, be well.